Hey beautiful people, I hope that your week started well, and I'm praying that the month that just ended was a blessed one for you. As usual, I'm very happy to be here with yet another message, another video. So today let's talk about fear, shall we? But before we begin, let us try to define what fear is, okay? So a simple definition I found here was fear is an anxious feeling caused by our anticipation of some imagined event or experience. It's an anxious feeling caused by anticipation. So there's anxiety and then there's anticipation of something imagined, some imagined event or experience. And then Merriam-Webster dictionary says it's an unpleasant emotion caused by being aware of danger. And dictionary.com says it's a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc., whether the threat is real or imagined. Okay, so there's a study that has shown that we're born with just two kinds of fears, just two. The fear of a loud noise and the fear of falling. The rest of the fears are learned. From where? Our society, our environment, our surroundings, the experiences of other people, and then our own experiences as well. As kids, our first teachers, who in most cases are our mothers, would teach us, for example, to be afraid of fire. A child would see fire and, is so attracted by it because it looks different, it looks beautiful, it looks colorful, so they are going towards the fire. But then the mother says, no, fire is not good, it would burn you, And some mothers actually go to the extent of allowing the child to touch that fire so that they know from experience that fire is not a good thing. So we grow up with some of these fears that we've learned from our environment. Now, this is not to say that fear is, inherently a bad thing. Fear is actually necessary. It's a survival mechanism because it helps protect us from danger. Imagine never having been taught that fire is bad. Imagine never having been taught that knives are dangerous, that knives can wound you. Imagine never having been taught that snakes have venom, or that the scorpions have venom. Imagine never having been taught that. So it's necessary to have a certain amount of fear because it protects you. Now, it becomes a whole different story when that fear becomes a crippling one, when that fear becomes something that holds you back from doing the things that are necessary for your growth in life. We've all been to school, at least some level of education. And from a very, very young age, what are we taught? We're taught that success is the only way to go. When you're in the classroom, your teacher gives an assignment. If you don't perform well, they use a red pen, to give you a fail. If you perform well, if you succeed, they use a blue pen, to say, hey, well done, kudos, keep up the good work. Okay, so we are taught from a very young age that failure is not good, that we should strive towards success. For those who watch football or soccer, when a player misbehaves, when a player plays foul, the referee gives him a red card. So red is used on the football field. Red is used in our classroom to say, hey, you did not perform well. So there is that pressure from childhood, for us to be successful. And so we grow up with this notion that success is what we should strive for, which obviously is what we should strive for, but then we are taught never to fail. And I'm going somewhere with this. I read about some five basic kinds of fears that kind of summarize all the other fears that we have grown to learn from society. 5 basic fears. Apart from the 2 ones that we're born with, society has taught us to, have those other 5 basic fears, which are, one is the fear of extinction, which is basically the fear of death. The second one is the fear of mutilation, which is the fear of losing a body part. The third one is the fear of of separation, which is basically the fear of rejection. And then you have the fear of what's that other one? The fear, the ego death, ego death, which is the fear of being ashamed, the fear of being made fun of. And that is the one that we're going to focus on. I'm actually forgetting the 5th one. If I remember during the course of the video, I'm going to mention it. Okay, so there is that fear of being made fun of being ridiculed, which is the ego death, and that is the fear that I want us to focus on today, because it is from that particular fear that the fear of failure stems. Like I said earlier, we are taught from a very young age to shun failure, and so it makes it very difficult for us as adults sometimes to try anything that we think we might fail at, because we're afraid that our society is going to make fun of us. And sometimes even it's not necessarily our society, it is us. We actually become that primary school teacher with that red pen, to mark a cross on our paper, on our endeavors, on our efforts. We try something once, we fail, we take a red pen and we're like, no, you're a failure. You did it once, you failed, you cannot succeed, you'll never succeed, and so you get stuck in that fear zone, in that failure zone. You try something, you fail, you become a referee in your own life, you give yourself a red card, you're like, no, I tried it once, I failed, it means I can never succeed again. Where is all of this coming from? Why do we limit ourselves so much? Why don't we use our fear? Because fear can actually be a positive thing if we decide to use it, to our own advantage. Okay? Because the problem here in many cases is the fear of trying something for the first time and failing. We're afraid that if we make that first step, if we decide to start that business, since it is the first time we're doing this, we might fail, and then people might think that we're a failure just because we tried that one thing and failed. Is it going out there to preach the gospel? You are afraid of what people might say. You're afraid of what the outcome might be. Is it going back to school, to help better your future? You're afraid that taking that first step, you might fail. You might get in class and you don't have a retentive memory. You feel like you don't have what it takes to be a student once again. And that is something that will help you, better your future. You stop yourself from doing things that would actually be really beneficial to you because of an emotion, of a feeling that you have imposed within yourself. And back to the ego death, it is our ego in many cases that stops us from going forward, that stops us from wanting to try something, because as human beings we want to portray this image of I'm strong, I'm invincible, I have it all together, so I have to keep portraying that image, I have to keep up that image. But then one of the keys to success is getting out of our comfort zones. One of the keys to success is trying things that we've never tried before. One of the keys to success is making ourselves feel uncomfortable. As an actor, as a performer, I've had to experience this emotion where prior to going on stage, there is this, your heart is racing. Okay, you're so nervous, you're so scared. But then you have two options at that point. You can either use your fear as a stepping stone, as a catapult, or you can allow the fear to numb you. You have two options. You can either make the best out of your fear, or you can let that fear get the best of you. You have two options. So if you decide that you're going to let the fear get the best of you, you go out on stage and you're going to make a fool of yourself. But then if you decide that you're going to get the best, you're going to make the best out of that fear, you get on that stage, you transform that fear into an adrenaline rush. You transform that fear into something positive. A few seconds later, 1 minute later, you are in your comfort zone and you give the performance of your life. At first, I thought I was the only one experiencing that emotion, that fear of going on stage. But I talked to many veteran actors, I talked to many people, and they said they still experience it after years of going on stage over and over and over again. They still feel that. And I bet you, after you overcome a fear, after you overcome an insecurity, it builds your self-confidence like crazy. It takes you to another level, in your confidence. And that is where fear really comes in handy, when you decide to use it to your advantage, as opposed to letting it, cripple you. I just finished shooting a movie where I had to put on a contact lens in my right eye, and I've always hated anything around my eyes, fake eyelashes, whatever you name it. I've never liked it, but in this case I had to. And what happened was, they gave me the contact lens to try, and because initially I tried to put it on, but it was impossible. It was so painful. It was so uncomfortable, basically. And I came home, I tried to watch some tutorials, and I kept trying, but it was so difficult. But then what happened was, on the day of filming, I had no choice at that point. The makeup artist was there. She was, trying to encourage me, telling me, Petra, go ahead, you can do it. Just, make sure that you hold your eye wide open. Just make sure that you hold this eye and then try to put it. It's going to be uncomfortable, but just, make sure that you keep your eye open. And then I asked her this question: is it possible for someone else to do it for me? She said, no, you're the only person that can do it. And that said something to me. I was the only person responsible for opening my eye, keeping it open, and then putting that contact in there. And I kept trying and trying and trying until about more than 30 minutes later, I was able to put that contact lens in, and oh my goodness, it was a success story. I was so happy. It was an accomplishment for me. And so I learned something. I learned a few things from that particular lesson. One, I was pushed to the wall. I was kind of like at the edge, because if I did not put that contact lens in, that movie would not have been made, because it was essential for my character to have that contact lens on. Without that contact lens in my eye, there was not going to be any filming. So I was asking myself, we've traveled all this way, and so is the whole crew going to be waiting for one person, to struggle and put on a contact lens? I had to do it because I was under pressure. The second thing was, she told me, you are the only person that can do it. So what does this mean? You are responsible, okay? Now, they were there encouraging me. They were telling me, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead and do it. But then, if I did not step up and make the effort, that contact lens would not have been in my eye, okay? And the movie would have not been made, basically, right? So now, this brings me to the other point, which is God in this whole thing. Obviously, I have to talk about God. Where does God come into this equation? God is the maker of heaven and earth. God is our Father. God loves us. He knows us more than we know ourselves. He knows the number of hairs on our head. He knows our weaknesses. He knows our strengths. He knows that we can be weak, and that is why he tells us when we are weak, that is when he is strong. People, even Jesus Christ, the Son of God, was afraid. Okay, when he was getting ready to get crucified, Jesus was afraid, and that is why he stayed up all night praying. He prayed to God 3 times. In the Bible, it's recorded that Jesus said, Lord, I'm kind of paraphrasing here. He said, Lord, please let this cup be taken from me. If it be your will, let this cup be taken from me. But at the end of the day, not my will, but your will be done. Okay, and he went again, he went on his knees and he cried to God. He said, Lord, please let this cup be taken from me, but not my will, but your will be done. Why did he pray that prayer 3 times? Okay, but he was up the whole night praying. Why? If Jesus were not afraid, he probably wouldn't have felt the need to, pray to God, asking him to help him. It's because he was anticipating that event. He was anticipating that crucifixion. He was going to be nailed on the cross. It is a painful thing. It is, physically painful, demanding. So he needed the strength of his Father. And what did God do? God sent an angel to give him strength. But did God stop him from going ahead with being crucified? No. All God did was strengthen him. All my makeup artist did was strengthen me, was encourage me. Petra, put that contact lens in your eye. But at the end of the day, she did not put it for me. I had to go ahead and put it for myself. God only strengthened Jesus. But at the end of the day, Jesus went out there and got crucified. What happened with Moses? God sent Moses to go out there and free the Israelites from the Egyptians. Okay, Moses said, "Oh my Lord, I can't do this. I can't talk. I'm afraid of talking in public. I'm a stutterer. I'm not very fluent in my speech and all of that stuff." But God told him, Who made the blind, the deaf, the mute? Who made all these people? I did. So if I'm sending you on this mission, I'm sending you on the mission because I know that I am going to be there with you. Did God say, okay, since you've complained to me about not being able to do these things, I'm going to spare you the trouble? And, no. God said, I will be with you. I will go with you on this mission. I will speak through you. I will use your mouth and speak through you to the people. Go because my strength is enough for you. Go because my wisdom is enough for you. Moses still had to go out there to do what God has sent him to do. Another example, Joshua. When God wanted to send Joshua to complete the mission that Moses hadn't completed, which was crossing the Jordan to take the Israelites to the promised land, God told Joshua 3 times, just like Jesus prayed to God 3 times, for asking him, Lord, take this cup away from me. God told Joshua 3 times, be courageous, be strong. He told him in Joshua 1 verse 6, Joshua chapter 1 verse 6, be strong and courageous. Verse 7, be strong and courageous. In verse 9, he says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. So God is not negotiating with us here about being strong. He knows that as human beings we have our fears. He knows that we have our weaknesses. But he commands us as his children because he knows that he's our Father and that through him we can be strong. He knows that when he tells you be strong, it is because you have it inside of you. When Moses was complaining about going to talk to the Israelites who were in Egypt, God said, what do you have in your hand? Moses had a rod. God transformed the rod into a snake. He said, put your hand under your bosom. And then, the hand transformed into a leprous hand, and then God transformed it again. And then he said, look there's a river, do this. Which means that what? We have what it takes. Moses had a rod in his hand. He didn't even know what that rod could do. But God reminded him, look at what you have in your hand. Touch your bosom. You have what it takes inside of you. God has equipped you with the things that you need. So it doesn't make any sense for you to go about living a fearful life because you feel like God is not with you. He keeps reminding us over and over again that he has equipped us. We have what it takes because he is our heavenly Father. He loves us. He wants us to succeed. It is up to us to step out there in faith and do the things that he needs for us to do. And whenever you're feeling weak, pray to him. He is faithful. He's going to listen to you. He's going to heal you. from that fear which is crippling you, and it's going to take you to the next level in your life. Because a lot of times fear comes in when you're about to cross to another level, to a place that is going to make you a better person. Jesus Christ was going to die on the cross for our sins. Fear was there. Moses was about to go deliver the Israelites from Egyptians. Fear came in. Joshua, the same thing. He had to go accomplish a mission. Fear fear took a hold of him. So whenever you're about to go to another level, there is that fear. It is very normal. It is a human feeling, but it becomes bad when you allow the fear to hold you back, as opposed to catapulting you to another level. So let me just read a few Bible passages here on what God tells us about fear. Romans 8:15 says that, let me start from 13. Romans 8:13. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. Okay? So if you live by the flesh, if you live by your own thoughts, if you don't trust that God is strong enough for you, you are going to die. Not a physical death, but a spiritual death. Which means that your plans will die. Which means that the things, your destiny, the things that you were destined to do on earth will not come to pass, because you have killed yourself. You have killed your emotions. You have killed something inside of you that was going to give birth to greatness. All right, but God is against that. He says He did not give you a spirit, the spirit of fear, the spirit of bondage, because fear is actually a kind of bondage when you allow it to stifle you. And I'm going to say this. It is often said that the graveyard is the richest place on earth, because in the graveyard you have unwritten books, you have unwritten plays, unmade films, unbuilt houses. That is because people die with their potential. They go into the grave with their potential. We should not let that happen. People need your voice. People need your wisdom. People need your experiences. Don't allow fear, deprive the world of the beauty that is you. Now, it says, God says again in 2 Timothy chapter 7, 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So God, where is that love that God has given you? Where is that power that God has given you? Where are all those things? Tap into them. Pray against the spirit of fear, and God is going to help you, to deliver you. Now I remember the other fear that I forgot initially is the loss of autonomy, which is the fear of being paralyzed, of being immobilized, of being imprisoned. And that's where claustrophobia kind of falls in. Yeah, that was the other fear I forgot. Yes, I remembered it. Thank God. So okay, so now I've talked a lot. I'm going to conclude this by saying something. There can be 1,000 reasons why you can't or shouldn't do something, but it's up to you, my brother, my sister, to find that one reason why you should and can do that thing. Okay? God bless you all real good.